His hands found my waist from behind, steady and certain, while the other stepped in front of me, his gaze holding mine with quiet intensity. "We've got you," one murmured, his voice rough with something deeper than reassurance. I was surrounded, caught between their warmth and the cool mountain air, my pulse racing as their touch ignited something I hadn't felt in years. The distant glow of the ranger station felt like another world as they guided me closer, their movements perfectly, synchronized like they'd done this dance before. My wedding ring caught the moonlight, but in that moment, it felt like nothing more than a distant memory. Caught something that sparked your interest? Hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss where this wilderness adventure leads us next. The trail had seemed so clear hours ago. Now, with darkness wrapping around the Montana wilderness like a heavy blanket, every shadow looked the same. My phone had died somewhere around mile 3, and the familiar markers I'd followed on the way in were nowhere to be found. The temperature was dropping fast, and my light jacket wasn't nearly enough against the mountain chill. I'd come here to think, to get away from the suffocating routine back home. My marriage had been feeling more like a business arrangement lately. Polite conversations over morning coffee, separate bedrooms, David buried in his work while I pretended everything was fine. This solo hiking trip was supposed to clear my head, help me figure out what I wanted. Instead, I was lost, cold, and starting to panic. That's when I saw the lights cutting through the trees. 2 beams swept across the trail ahead, moving with purpose. I called out, my voice echoing off the canyon walls, and the lights immediately shifted toward me. Relief flooded through me as I heard heavy boots approaching, the crunch of leaves and twigs announcing their arrival. "Ma'am, you okay out here?" The voice was deep, authoritative, with a slight rasp that made something flutter in my chest. As they got closer, I could make out their silhouettes, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the confident stride of men who owned these mountains. "I'm lost," I admitted, feeling foolish. "I started on the Cedar Ridge Trail hours ago, but nothing looks right anymore." The first ranger stepped into the light, and my breath caught. He was older than me, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. His uniform stretched across a chest that spoke of years spent hauling equipment and scaling rock faces. A name tag read Liam. "You're about 4 miles off the main trail," he said, his tone gentle but serious. "These back paths connect to some pretty remote areas. Lucky we found you when we did." The second ranger moved up beside him, equally impressive, but with lighter hair and a slightly broader frame. "Finn," his badge read. Where Liam was all quiet intensity, Finn had an easier smile, though his eyes held the same calculating sharpness. "Temperature's going to drop below freezing tonight," Finn said, checking his watch. "We've got a ranger station about a mile from here. Hot coffee, warm blankets, much better than trying to navigate these trails in the dark." I nodded gratefully, suddenly aware of how cold I'd gotten. My teeth were starting to chatter, and I could see my breath in small puffs. "That sounds perfect. Thank you." As we walked, they flanked me naturally, their presence reassuring in the darkness. Liam carried a powerful flashlight that illuminated the uneven terrain, while Finn kept up a steady conversation that helped distract me from the cold. "First time in Montana?" he asked. "Yes, I needed to get away for a while." I didn't elaborate, but something in my tone must have conveyed more than I intended. Liam glanced at me sideways. "Sometimes the mountains have a way of helping you find what you're looking for, even when you're not sure what that is." His words hit closer to home than he could know. We walked in comfortable silence after that, the only sounds our footsteps and the distant call of night birds. I found myself noticing things about them, the way Liam moved with quiet confidence, how Finn's laugh rumbled low in his chest when he pointed out constellations I couldn't see. They worked together seamlessly, anticipating each other's movements, communicating with glances and small gestures. The ranger station was smaller than I'd expected. More of a cabin, really, tucked into a grove of tall pines. Warm yellow light spilled from the windows, and smoke curled up from a stone chimney. It looked like something from a fairy tale, all rough-hewn logs and cozy charm. "Home sweet home," Finn said, holding the door open for me. Inside was even better. The main room had a stone fireplace with a crackling fire, comfortable furniture arranged around it, and shelves lined with books and equipment. A small kitchen occupied one corner, and I could see a hallway leading to what I assumed were bedrooms. Adios. "By the fire," Liam said, already moving toward the kitchen. "I'll make some tea. You need to warm up from the inside out." I settled onto a leather couch that was soft and worn from years of use. The fire's warmth immediately began seeping into my bones, and I realized just how cold I'd gotten. Finn disappeared down the hallway and returned with a thick wool blanket. "Here," he said, draping it around my shoulders. His hands lingered for just a moment, and I felt a spark of electricity at the contact. "Better?" "Much." I pulled the blanket closer, inhaling the scent of pine and something distinctly masculine. "This place is incredible." Do you both live here? During the season, yeah. We're partners. Work the same section of the park. Finn settled into a chair across from me, his long legs stretched out toward the fire. Been doing this for about 8 years now. Liam returned with 3 steaming mugs, handing me one that smelled of chamomile and honey. Our fingers brushed as I took it, and again I felt that little jolt of awareness. His eyes met mine for a moment longer than necessary before he sat on the other end of the couch. So what brings you to our little corner of paradise? He asked. Besides getting lost, I mean. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, considering how much to share. There was something about the firelight, the isolation, the steady presence of these 2 men that made me want to open up in a way I hadn't in years. My marriage is falling apart, I said finally. Or maybe it already has, and I'm just now admitting it. We've been together since college, but lately it feels like we're strangers living in the same house. I thought maybe getting away would help me figure out what I want. They listened without judgment, their expressions thoughtful. It struck me how different this was from conversations with David. Here, I felt heard, seen, like my words actually mattered. That's tough, Finn said softly. Sometimes distance gives you perspective, though. Helps you see things more clearly. Or helps you realize what you've been missing, Liam added, his voice quiet but carrying a weight that made me look at him more closely. We talked for another hour, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. They told me about their work, the challenges and rewards of protecting this wild place. I found myself sharing more than I'd intended, my frustrations, my dreams, the growing sense that I'd been sleepwalking through my life. The tea and warmth were making me drowsy, and I caught myself yawning. Finn noticed immediately. You should get some rest, he said. We can get you back to the main trail first thing in the morning. Thank you, both of you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found me. Liam stood, extending a hand, to help me up. When I took it, he pulled me gently to my feet, and suddenly we were standing very close. I could smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating from his body. For a moment, neither of us moved. The spare room's just down the hall, he said, his voice rougher than before. Second door on the right. But I didn't move. Something in the air had shifted, become charged with possibility. Finn rose from his chair, and I felt his presence behind me, close enough that I could feel his breath on my neck. Unless, Finn said quietly, you'd rather stay out here by the fire. My heart was pounding now, my body responding to their nearness in ways I hadn't felt in years. I should have said no, should have gone to the spare room and locked the door. I was married after all, even if that marriage felt like a hollow shell. Instead, I turned to face Finn, then looked back at Liam. What are you suggesting? The question hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. Liam stepped closer, his hand still holding mine, his thumb tracing small circles on my palm. We're suggesting, he said carefully, that you don't have to be alone tonight, if you don't want to be. We won't push, Finn added, his hand coming to rest lightly on my lower back. But if you're looking for something you've been missing, maybe this is your chance to find it. The rational part of my mind screamed warnings. This was crazy, reckless. Everything I'd been taught was wrong. But a deeper part, a part that had been dormant for too long, whispered something else entirely. When was the last time I'd felt desired? When had anyone looked at me the way these men were looking at me now? I started, then stopped. Words seemed inadequate for what I was feeling. It's okay, Liam said softly. We understand if you can't. But that was just it. I could. Maybe for the first time in years, I was exactly where I wanted to be, with people who saw me as more than just an obligation or an afterthought. I let the blanket slip from my shoulders. The firelight danced across my skin as the wool fell away, and I saw something ignite in both their eyes. Liam's hand tightened slightly on mine, while Finn's palm spread wider against my back, steadying me. Are you sure? Finn asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Instead of answering with words, I reached up and touched Liam's face, feeling the slight roughness of his 5 o'clock shadow against my palm. He leaned into the touch, his eyes closing briefly before opening again with an intensity that made my breath catch. Then Finn was turning me gently in his arms, his hands framing my face as he searched my eyes for any sign of hesitation. Finding none, he lowered his mouth to mine. The kiss was soft at first, exploratory, giving me every chance to pull away. But I didn't want to pull away. I wanted to sink into this feeling, this rush of being truly wanted. I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, and heard him make a low sound of approval. Liam pressed closer behind me, his lips finding the sensitive spot where my neck met my shoulder. A shiver ran through me that had nothing to do with the cold. His hands settled on my waist, thumb stroking slow circles through the thin fabric of my hiking shirt. God, you're beautiful, he murmured against my skin. They worked together with the same seamless coordination I'd noticed on the trail, Finn's mouth claiming mine while Liam's hands and lips explored the curve of my neck, the line of my shoulders. I felt surrounded, cherished, desired in a way that made my head spin. Finn broke the kiss, both of us breathing hard. "Not here," he said softly. "Come with us." They led me down the hallway to what was clearly the main bedroom, larger than the guest room with a king-size bed covered in soft quilts and pillows. A window looked out over the moonlit forest, and the firelight from the main room cast everything in warm, golden tones. Liam turned on a small bedside lamp, its soft light much more intimate than the overhead fixture. The moment stretched between us, full of anticipation and possibility. Then Finn stepped closer, his hand settling on my hips as he looked down at me. "Last chance to change your mind," he said. "Once we start, I don't think I'll be able to stop." "I don't want you to stop," I whispered, surprising myself with my boldness. That was all the permission he needed. His mouth found mine again, hungrier, this time more demanding. I melted into him, my hands exploring the solid wall of his chest through his uniform shirt. Behind me, Liam's fingers found the hem of my hiking shirt, lifting it slowly, giving me time to object. I didn't object. Instead, I raised my arms, letting him pull the fabric over my head. The cool air hit my skin, but I was immediately warmed by their appreciative gazes, their gentle touches. "Perfect," Liam breathed, his hands skimming over my bare shoulders. They took their time, mapping every inch of newly exposed skin with reverent touches and soft kisses. There was no rush, no desperate fumbling, just a slow, thorough exploration that left me trembling with need. When Finn's lips trailed down my throat to my collarbone, I couldn't suppress a soft moan. The sound seemed to affect them both, Liam's grip tightening on my waist while Finn's breathing grew heavier against my skin. "More," I whispered, not sure exactly what I was asking for, but knowing I needed it. They understood. Liam's hands found the clasp of my sports bra, freeing me from its confines with practiced ease. Finn's mouth immediately followed the path his hands had taken, his lips and tongue creating sensations that made my knees weak. I reached for them both, wanting to give as much as I was receiving. My fingers worked at the buttons of Liam's shirt while Finn's hands continued their exploration. The contrast between them was intoxicating. Liam's quiet intensity and Finn's more open passion, both focused entirely on me. Soon we were all breathing hard, clothes disappearing piece by piece until nothing separated us but heated air and anticipation. They guided me to the bed, laying me down gently on the soft quilts, their eyes drinking in every detail. "You're incredible," Finn said, his voice rough with desire. Liam nodded his agreement, settling beside me on the bed. His hand traced a path, from my shoulder to my hip, his touch featherlight, but setting every nerve ending on fire. "We want to make this good for you. Tell us what you need." The question caught me off guard. When was the last time someone had asked what I needed? When had anyone cared enough to make sure I was satisfied, fulfilled, happy? "I need to feel wanted," I said honestly. "I need to feel like I matter." "You do matter," Liam said firmly, his eyes holding mine. "You matter so much?" Then they set about proving it, their hands and mouths working in perfect harmony to drive me slowly out of my mind. Finn's lips found sensitive spots I'd forgotten I had, while Liam's fingers traced patterns on my skin that made me arch beneath their touch. They built the tension slowly, carefully, reading every response and adjusting accordingly. When I trembled, they slowed down. When I pressed closer, they gave me more. It was like a carefully orchestrated dance, and I was their willing partner. The first wave of pleasure caught me by surprise, rolling through me with an intensity that left me gasping. But they didn't stop. Instead, they gentled their touch, drawing out the sensation until I was floating in a haze of satisfaction. "Beautiful," Liam murmured, pressing soft kisses to my heated skin. "So beautiful when you let go." But they weren't done with me yet. As I came back to myself, I realized they had only just begun. Finn shifted position, settling between my legs with a look of pure hunger that made my breath catch. "My turn," he said, his voice rough with promise. What followed was a revelation. His mouth on me was nothing like the perfunctory attention I'd grown used to at home. This was worship, dedication, a man who clearly took pride in his ability to make a woman fall apart with pleasure. His tongue found every sensitive spot, his lips creating suction that made me cry out. Liam was there too, his hands and mouth, ensuring no part of me was neglected. He captured my lips in deep kisses that swallowed my moans, his fingers tangling in my hair as Finn worked his magic below. The second climax built slowly, a gathering storm that I could feel approaching, but couldn't quite reach. I writhed beneath their combined attention, chasing the sensation, my body taut with need. "Please," I gasped against Liam's mouth. I need. We know what you need, Finn said, his breath hot against my most sensitive flesh. Let us give it to you. When the release finally crashed over me, it was with a force that left me shaking. My back arched off the bed, my hands fisting in the quilts as wave after wave of pleasure washed through me. They held me through it, their touch gentle but grounding, anchoring me as I flew apart. As I came back to Earth, I realized this was only the beginning. They arranged themselves on either side of me, their hands roaming my still trembling body with reverent touches. I started, then stopped, unable to find words. Just the start, Liam promised, his lips finding my ear. We're going to take care of you all night long. And they did. They moved me between them like I weighed nothing, positioning me exactly where they wanted me, where I could feel every inch of their heated skin against mine. When Liam finally joined with me, it was with a slowness that made me gasp, a deliberate claiming that left no doubt about their intentions. Finn's hands steadied me as Liam established a rhythm that had me moving against him instinctively. The friction was incredible, the fullness exactly what I'd been craving without knowing it. But when Finn positioned himself to join us, I tensed slightly. Easy, he murmured, his lips finding my shoulder. We'll go slow. Stop us if it's too much. They took their time, letting me adjust, ensuring my comfort above their own pleasure. When I finally nodded my readiness, they moved together in perfect synchronization, filling me completely in a way I'd never experienced. The sensation was overwhelming at first, too much and not enough all at once. But as they found their rhythm, as my body adjusted to accommodate them both, it became something transcendent. I was surrounded, claimed, cherished in a way that made tears spring to my eyes. So good, Liam groaned, his forehead pressed against mine. You feel incredible. Perfect, Finn agreed, his voice strained with the effort of maintaining control. Like you were made for this. They moved together like a well-oiled machine, their timing impeccable, their focus entirely on my pleasure. When I trembled on the edge of another climax, they adjusted their rhythm to draw it out. When I grew too sensitive, they gentled their touch without losing the connection that bound us together. The final release, when it came, was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It started deep inside and radiated outward, consuming every cell in my body until I was nothing but sensation and light. I cried out, my body convulsing between them as they held me steady, their own releases following closely behind. We collapsed together in a tangle of limbs and labored breathing, the quilts twisted around us, our skin damp with exertion. For long moments, no one spoke. We just held each other, processing what had just happened. Finally, Finn stirred, pressing a soft kiss to my shoulder. Are you okay? Was that perfect? I whispered, meaning it completely. That was perfect. They arranged themselves on either side of me again, their arms creating a cocoon of warmth and safety. I felt cherished, protected, satisfied in ways I'd forgotten were possible. Stay with us tonight, Liam said softly. Don't think about tomorrow yet, just stay. I nodded, already half asleep in their embrace. For the first time in years, I felt exactly where I belonged. Morning came too soon, pale sunlight filtering through the bedroom window and highlighting the events of the night before. I woke slowly, becoming aware of warm bodies pressed against me, strong arms holding me close. For a moment, I just lay there, savoring the feeling of being so thoroughly satisfied, so completely content. But reality began to creep in as I became more awake. I was married. I'd just spent the night with two men I'd met less than 12 hours ago. I should have felt guilty, ashamed, regretful. Instead, I felt alive. They woke as I stirred, both immediately alert in the way of men accustomed to being ready for anything. Their eyes found mine, searching for regret or recrimination. Morning, Finn said softly, his hand stroking my hair. How are you feeling? Good, I said honestly. Really good. Relief flickered across both their faces, and I realized they'd been worried about my reaction. These strong, confident men had been vulnerable too, uncertain about how I'd process what we'd shared. No regrets? Liam asked, his voice carefully neutral. I considered the question seriously. Should I have regrets? Probably. But looking at them now, remembering how they'd made me feel, not just physically but emotionally, I couldn't bring myself to wish it hadn't happened. No regrets, I confirmed. Last night was exactly what I needed, what I didn't, even know I was looking for. The tension left their bodies, and Finn leaned down to kiss me softly. Good. Because I was hoping it wasn't just a one-time thing. We don't want to complicate your life, Liam added quickly. But if you ever want to come back to the mountains, our door is always open. The offer hung in the air between us, full of possibility and promise. I thought about my life back home, the cold marriage, the routine, the feeling of being invisible. Then I thought about how these men had made me feel desired, valued, alive. I think, I said slowly, that I might need to come back soon. The mountains have a lot more to teach me. They smiled, and I saw my own anticipation reflected in their eyes. This wasn't just about physical pleasure, though that had been incredible. It was about finding parts of myself I'd lost, rediscovering what it meant to be truly wanted and appreciated. We spent the morning talking over coffee and breakfast, sharing stories and making plans. They gave me their contact information, promised to show me the secret places tourists never saw if I came back. When it was time to leave, they escorted me back to the main trail, their professional demeanor intact, but their eyes holding promises of what might come. As we reached the trailhead where my car waited, they pulled me aside one last time. This wasn't just about one night, Liam said seriously. We meant what we said. Come back when you're ready. We'll be waiting, Finn added, pressing a soft kiss to my temple. I drove away with their contact information programmed into my phone and a new sense of purpose burning in my chest. I had decisions to make, changes to implement, a life to reclaim. But first, I had mountains to return to, and two men who'd shown me what I'd been missing all along. Sometimes you find exactly what you need in the most unexpected places. Have you ever had a moment that completely changed your perspective on what you thought you wanted? What would you do if you found yourself in my situation? Follow your heart or play it safe? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your stories. And if this wilderness adventure left you wanting more, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Until then, keep exploring those wild places. You never know what you might discover about yourself.